Hello.
Morning.
Hi, Tracy. Hi, Katy. Hi, Leah. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Katy. I love seeing somebody else's pet up in front of the camera besides mine.
I don't think I'll ever be able to go physically back to work. This cat would have a nervous breakdown.
We've said the same thing about our animals. Oh my gosh.
Katy, you get no rest after yesterday's event, eh?
This is a very busy time of month or time of year rather for the environmental field with Earth Day. We get a lot of speaking requests.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you guys do too.
Yes, we're usually pretty busy as well. This year was a little more confused because everybody was trying to figure out how to accommodate the pandemic and virtual, and but things are coming along.
When you say the event yesterday, you mean the picketing of BlackRock, or are you talking about a different event?
Well, I know Karen Dyer was involved in the picketing of BlackRock, but the Dallas Climate Symposium that's held once a year was yesterday morning.
Ah, okay.
I've managed to be at all four of them.
All four of the speakers?
No,
all four of the symposiums?
Yeah, all 4 years. In fact,
Yeah.
that's two or 3 years ago. That's how I learned about climate reality, was hearing a couple of speakers from climate reality, Roger and Tony and Dottie.
I've been with Dallas for almost a year now, but I've been to every climate symposium as well.
Oh, okay.
So I used to be a sustainability manager in another city. So I would attend as a participant.
We're glad Dallas has her now.
Yes. Well, we usually get maybe 40 people or so. It certainly depends on what else is happening and the weather and et cetera. How many people were there yesterday, Katy? How many people attended actually?
I think across all of the platforms. So we had it on WebEx, and then we also had it on the city's cable access channel and live streaming on YouTube. And I want to say we had about 300 people. But I need to find out what the exact number is.
Oh, that's good.
Across all of the platforms.
Last year was a little dicey because the pandemic was just kind of rolling in, but some of us still made it at Fair Park.
Yeah, that was, I think, the last big thing I went to last year.
Yes, I think me also.
It looks like we had 251 people yesterday.
That's very good.
And Tracy, I'm scrolling through my emails. I see I owe you an email as well about AT&T, or no, Toyota.
Yeah, I just sent it while I was thinking of it.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Karen. Hi, James. Hi, Simon.
Hello, Richard.
Karen, how was
Hello,
the BlackRock protest last night?
It was good. It was small but important, and the guy leading it had a very good message to deliver. he said that the city of Dallas, their retirement fund is invested with BlackRock. So, you know, oh, not a good situation.
No. Roger, you're muted.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jayashri. Roger, you're muted.
The expression of the year. You're muted. You're on mute. Yes. Gosh, how often do we all hear that? I was saying hi to Tracy and welcome aboard. Delighted to hear from you again and have you fill in the rest of our chapter. Really hope to hear something about opportunities for people to get involved at some point.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I see both Katy and Pharr have signed on. I'm going to shut up and get out of your way, Richard. Welcome, Pharr. Welcome, Katy.
Hi there.
Hi, Pharr.
Hello.
Hi, Pharr. Heard you yesterday.
Oh,
Or
thank
was
you.
it Friday? The North Dallas thing.
Richard, my nag is going to take about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I've been practicing. So in my slot, that's all the time I'm going to take.
Okay,
Just to keep you informed.
I modified the agenda to put the time allotment for each spot, but then I decided to take that out as a little too controlling. But we'll try and keep everybody on track.
Well, I will be briefer than usual, I promise.
There's much to talk about.
There is.
Hi, Karen. You are so well suited for this job. Just wanted to say.
Oh, thank you, Jayashri. Mhm.
People are slowly filtering in. It looks like Kevin Overton has joined us. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Kevin, we're not seeing much of you. You must be a busy man somehow.
I've been staying pretty busy.
Kevin, I have a few questions for you, which I'll email you later on.
Sure, you can ask it now if you want.
No, I won't take up today's time. Let things go on time. It has something to do with something else.
Okay. Feel free.
Okay, people are slowly wandering in virtually. What was the last physical meeting we had of Climate Reality? Was that last March or February?
February.
February.
For my time, I have no idea.
February it was. Last time we met in person was at North Dallas thing?
The Meadow Center.
Katie asked me yesterday when the last time we had an update on the CCAP was, and I could not best I could figure out, I think it was last May, maybe. Does that sound right?
To me, Kevin? I think that's right.
Okay. I went back through all of my emails and announcements and everything, and that was the best I could come up with.
Okay, maybe we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes. We do have people wandering in. Thank you for attending.
Quick question before we get started. How many people were able to tune into the climate symposium yesterday? All right.
Yeah, we didn't realize that this was the day after when we were requesting your presentation. So, but we know that you're all tireless and would do anything for the environment. So you'd be happy to present.
And we didn't really get to talk about CCAP a whole lot yesterday, not in any specific way. So this is a great opportunity for us. Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. Many of us got involved in one way or the other with the CCAP activities. So it's a pretty critical step. Okay, we'll wait till 1:03. We got 1 more minute according to my PC. We got people still tuning on, coming and going. Was the climate symposium recorded?
Yes.
So will those of us who attended get it? We could send the link out to the membership, or if you have.
Richard, I think James Ornstein already posted that on our Discord channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
James, you're on the call. I'm pretty sure I saw you had already posted that.
Yes, he did.
Good. Okay. Well, I haven't looked at Discord today. I don't know if James's audio is working. But let's go ahead and get started. Karen Dyer is going to start us off, and then I'll show you we've got a pretty ambitious agenda today. Lots of information to share in our time together. But Karen Dyer is going to start us off today.
Thanks, Richard, and good afternoon, everyone. We want to start this meeting with our Indigenous Land Acknowledgement, which is available on our chapter website. Specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth areas, we are standing and living on the lands stolen from the Kickapoo, Wichita, Tawakoni, Umanis, and Comanche people who have been harmed yet continue to thrive in the process of colonization and white supremacy. I encourage all of us to go to native-land.ca and educate ourselves on these Native communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Leah, if you could let me share my screen.
Give me a second.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, you should be able to share it.
Okay. Karen, give me a thumbs up if you can see the agenda. Oh, good. Okay. So as I said, we have a pretty full agenda. We're going to start off with a video that was recommended by the Creative Spaces Working Group. Leah and Brittany are going to talk a little about an art project that some of us donated to. Roger's going to talk about the importance of some of the legislative action that's happening now. It's critical. I'll introduce the speakers. We'll have our CECAP update from Katy Evans and Pharr Andrews, and Kevin might pipe in as well. Some of us gave money to Green Careers Dallas recently too. Tracy's going to give an update for that as well. Jayashri has a brief treasurer's report. We'll do a self-care for activists, and then we'll be done. So I'll try and keep everybody moving along. I think the CECAP update is probably about 30 minutes, and the Green Careers presentation is about 10 minutes with some Q&A. So we should be able to get through it all. And let me go to I'm not sure I shared correctly, so I'm going to share again. I'm going to share computer sound. Karen, give me a thumbs up if you can see that video on the screen. Okay. And another thumbs up if you can hear the sound that I'm starting just now.
Blessing
Yes, now. Okay.
the sound. I thank you for the smallest sound, for the way my ears open even before my eyes, as if to remember the way everything began with an original, vibrant note. And I thank you for this everyday original music, always being rehearsed, always being played, always being remembered as something new and arriving. A tram line below in the city street, gull cries, or a ship's horn in the distant harbor, so that in waking I hear voices even when there is no voice, so that in waking I hear voices even where there is no voice, and invitations where there is no invitation, so that I can wake with you by the ocean in summer, or in the deepest, seemingly quietest winter, and be with you, so that I can hear you even with my eyes closed, even with my heart closed, even before I fully wake. Blessing for the light. I thank you, light, again, for helping me to find the outline of my daughter's face. I thank you, light, for the subtle way your merest touch gives shape to such things I could only learn to love through your delicate instruction. And I thank you this morning, waking again most intimately and secretly, for your visible invisibility, the way you make me look at the face of the world, so that everything becomes an eye to everything else, and so that strangely I also see myself being seen, so that I can be born again in that sight, so that I can have this one other way, along with every other way, to know that I am here.
Very beautiful. Thank you, Creative Spaces Working Group. Okay, art installation project tomorrow. I think Leah and Brittany are going to talk briefly about that. We're excited to hear about that.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I'll give an update on that. So first of all, we just wanted to thank everyone that had donated to the fundraiser. So I think last we had checked, we'd raised over $500 for the project, which more than covered the supplies and everything. So thanks to all those that donated. So yes, as Richard mentioned, we're going to be having an event tomorrow around installing the mural. So today the artists are just putting the finishing touches on the mural and getting a protective coat put on. And they aren't able to join us obviously because they're trying to get the work wrapped up around the mural, but we will be having an event tomorrow. So at Blackbird Lofts, where we're going to be installing the mural. So I'll put the address in the chat here, but just everyone is invited. It's, you know, a chapter event, and it's going to be outdoors around the mural. We do ask that you wear your masks. So it's going to start at 10:30. So you can feel free to join. And I think Leo is going to put, yep, she put the RSVP in the chat. So if you want to, you know, participate in the event, come downtown and join us as we install it. Make sure to RSVP with that link. And then we're also going to potentially have a group go out to eat afterwards outdoors. So if you're comfortable with that, you can definitely join the group. And one other thing I was just going to note is that parking can be a little challenging. So just so you're aware, maybe arrive a little early to try and find some parking spots. But we'd love everyone to come join us as we install it, get some cool photos in front of the mural. It, you know, when I saw it last week and it didn't even have any details or anything on it, it was already looking awesome. So I can't wait to see the final product. So hope we can see you all there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Hope to see you all there. I'm looking forward to it. And I think the weather's going to be okay for this event.
Oh, and sorry, just one other quick thing. I wanted to give a shout out to Maureen, Ishrita, and Megan, because they're really the driving force behind the whole project. And also Lisa, of course, for offering up her space. So thanks to all of those folks for making this possible.
Yeah, it's wonderful that we can constructively use that space. Roger, you're on with legislative action.
Yes, very briefly. I want to say a quick welcome as chair of the chapter to everyone, but especially if you're at a chapter meeting for the first time. Delighted to have you on board. At the minute, I see 36 people. It's a Saturday afternoon. I know we are all zoomed out completely after a year of nothing but Zoom. It's so great that we're going to be meeting in person. Going to meet some people in person that we haven't met since they trained last summer for the first time tomorrow morning. So I hope you'll come out. And I see some longtime members on the call who we haven't seen at a meeting in a while. So welcome back to all of you. I'm in the agenda today, not in my usual role as chapter scold. Well, maybe I am, or grumpy old man, or however you've come to think about me. I'm not going to nag you about acts of leadership recording. We're killing it. We did 1,300 acts of leadership last year on the hub. We're ahead of that pace for this year. So y'all are, my nagging has sunk in and y'all are doing a great job. But we have another issue. As Richard said when he read the agenda, right now we are making a major push for everybody in the chapter to be on the phone and email to your state representatives and your state senators on an almost daily basis. If you don't know, the Texas legislature only meets every other year. They meet for a very short period of time. This session will be over by Memorial Day, the end of May. There are some very, very alarming bills moving through this session of the legislature that bear directly on environment and climate related issues. We are doing our best to keep the chapter as informed as we can keep you about bills that need your voice, your action going to your reps quickly. We're working very closely with Rita Beving over at Public Citizen. She's doing a weekly update on the most important bills moving through the legislature. She's a paid lobbyist for Public Citizen and really on top of what's going on in Austin. Here's the issue. We've got a mailing list now of more than 200 members of this chapter. We put out an email on MailChimp and Leah looks, maybe if we're lucky, 50 people open the email. Now, I'm probably preaching to the choir here because you're out on a Saturday for a chapter meeting. You're probably among the 50 opening the email, but you know other people in the chapter. I'm counting on all of you to get the word out, open the email. Leah bends over backwards to make it as clear and easy for you to take action as possible. There are talking points, where to call, how to email. It's very straightforward, but we really have to move on this if we're going to say anything at all. And that's about as important a kind of climate activism as we can do. Take action in the political process directly. We may not be able to prevent some of these bad bills from being passed, but we have to speak out on it. So please look at the emails, take as many of those actions as you can. And yes, at the end of that, record your acts of leadership on the hub. So you knew I'd get it in sooner or later. Thank you, Richard. That's my nag for the month.
Thank you, Roger. Okay. Our first set of speakers are next, talking about a CECAP update. We're very eager to hear this since CECAP has been such a big issue for us and the city for the last few years. Our first speaker, I think our primary speaker today is Katy Evans. Some of you saw her yesterday at the Dallas Climate Symposium. She's the climate coordinator for the city of Dallas, where she works on implementing the city's comprehensive environmental and climate action plan, or CECAP. She earned her bachelor's and master's in public health from the University of Florida, during which time she also worked to reduce environmental health risks to infants and children in Jacksonville, Florida. During her 12 years in local government, Katy has worked in environmental compliance and enforcement, public health education and outreach, and sustainability. During her free time, Katy volunteers as a mentor in the DISD and enjoys exploring North Texas on her bicycle. Great. And our other speaker from the Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability, well, we have Kevin Overton also, who's a member of our Climate Reality Project, but the other person who will be talking a bit is Pharr Andrews. Welcome, Pharr. She currently serves as the Senior Climate Coordinator for the City of Dallas, where her primary function is to coordinate the development and implementation of the city's first comprehensive and Climate Action Plan, or CECAP. Previous work experience includes Environmental Outreach Manager for the City of Richardson and Air Quality Manager for the City of Austin. While in Austin, she chaired the region's Clean Air Coalition Advisory Committee and helped develop and implement 3 regional air quality improvement plans. Prior to serving at the City of Austin, she worked for the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality on Environmental Policy Issues, TCEQ. Thank you both for being here. And I will hand it over to Katy. You should be able to share your screen.
Right. Thank you so much. And thank you for having us. I'm going to get this going. Can you see my screen? Maybe, I hope. Okay, wonderful.
It's coming up. Yeah, it's there now.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And hi, Kevin. Happy Saturday. So thank you so much for having us. My name is Katy Evans. I'm a climate coordinator with the City of Dallas, as Richard mentioned, in the Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. And I'm excited to be here today to share with you our update on the city's Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan, or CECAP. And so my presentation has a lot of slides, mostly because I want to make sure that I have as much information as you all are looking for. I'm going to gloss over some because this is a group that is already very familiar with climate change and the risks it poses to our region. You guys understand why this is important and why we need to take action. And so I have a lot of those slides in there, but I will gloss over them pretty quickly and focus more on what we're doing this year to advance the climate plan. So I'm going to start big. We're going to start way zoomed out with our galaxy, right? Because climate change is big. It feels overwhelming. Sometimes I get depressed that it's such an overwhelming task. But I like to think of it big picture and zoom in a little bit more to our solar system and our planet, the planet that we want to be around for a very long time in a livable way. And in our country, you know, we now have an administration that's much more supportive of climate action. Part of the reason the climate plan exists as it is because we know that it is important for us to take action at the local level where it is much easier and more manageable for us to take action. So we zoom into Texas and the DFW region, which I will speak more about our efforts at the regional level towards the end of the presentation. We go into Dallas, which is kind of shaped like the Pokemon Charmander, right? It's this weird little oblong kind of shape. We've got Dallas here. And then we zoom in a little bit further to this guy who's eating his lunch. It could be any one of us, right? And he's learning about the City of Dallas's first ever Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan, or CECAP, which was adopted on May 27th of last year. So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the city's climate plan. I started with the City of Dallas the day after this plan was adopted. So the day before I started, I was watching eagerly to make sure I would have a job the next day, that it would be adopted. And thankfully, due to the hard work of the staff like Pharr and Kevin and you all and all of our stakeholders, it was unanimously adopted by our city council. And so I'm going to talk today about the climate plan as it stands and what we are doing right now. And I know we're tight on time, and so I'm going to talk fast, but if you have questions, please jot them down. I'll be happy to answer them towards the end of the presentation. So this is our mayor, Eric Johnson, and we were tasked with creating a plan that was actionable and something that wasn't just going to sit on the shelf and look pretty, something that would actually make real impact in the city of Dallas. And so at the core of that plan is equity and inclusion, right? We wanted to make sure that this was a plan that would improve quality of life, not just reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but improve life as well for all Dallas residents, and to really mitigate some of the historical impacts that we saw in some of our frontline and more disadvantaged communities. So we know, and you all know, that in the next 30 years, action is crucial. We're going to see annual temperature increase by 5 degrees. We're going to see air quality exacerbated by the increasing heat, and we're going to see more flooding and drought. Not on this list is the extreme winter weather that like we saw in February, right? So you'll hear me reference that a few times in the presentation because that was something that had not happened in a long time during the development of the CECAP. During the development, we were looking at things like tornadoes and those straight line windstorms from 2019, as well as, of course, our very hot summers. So in the creation of the CECAP, there was a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and this really laid the groundwork for the development of the plan and its 8 sectors, which I'm sure you all are at least somewhat familiar with already. We know that in the city of Dallas, almost 2/3 of our greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings and energy. About 1/3 comes from transportation, with the remainder coming from industrial processes and solid waste and wastewater treatment. We also wanted this, and I'll revisit those sectors in a moment, but we also wanted the CECAP to have that equitable approach that I mentioned. We know that climate change is going to affect everybody, but it's not going to affect everybody equally. And those who are on the frontline communities who have the least means to adapt will be hit the hardest. And so throughout the development, there was extensive community engagement in order to reach as many neighborhoods and communities as possible. And we are continuing that effort of outreach and engagement throughout the implementation process of the CECAP. We're also working towards environmental justice. So the CECAP focuses on mitigation, adaptation, and environmental quality, and the overlap of these different areas. At the center of all of this is environmental justice. So we're not just reducing emissions, we are also working to adapt to what's already coming. We know that even if we nix out all of our emissions today, we are still going to see the impacts of climate change. So this plan has a really multi-pronged approach of preparing, of adapting, of mitigating or reducing, and increasing quality of life overall, with that prioritization of our most impacted communities at the center of it. So what is the plan? The plan is very big. It's like 200 something pages, right? 250 pages or so. And it's got a lot of parts to it. It's got 97 actions across these mitigation, adaptation, and environmental quality and justice sectors. And it's divided up by 8 different goals. And I'm not going to read all of this right now because I'm going to talk briefly about each one individually. But going into this year's implementation, we're looking at 48 actions being started this year. This year being the year that started this fiscal year back in October. So in Dallas, we use our fiscal year is October through September. And so this fiscal year 2021 work plan starts with includes the start of at least 48 actions within the CECAP of the 97. So about half. So we bit off a lot and we're trying to chew it right now, right? And so we took those 48 actions and we divided them up into 136 milestones. So some actions might have 6 milestones, some might have 3, and we have worked with 19 of our city departments on implementation of those milestones. And I'll talk about how far we've gotten so far. We just had the second quarter end at the end of March, and I'll talk a little bit about where we are in terms of that implementation plan towards the end of this presentation. But I wanted to let you guys know how we've broken this plan up, a 30-year plan, into more bite-sized pieces. And as I go through each of the sectors, I'm going to talk about what's in the plan for that sector. So our first goal or sector in the CECAP is Dallas buildings are energy efficient and climate resilient. As you saw on that greenhouse gas emission slide, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied because I just realized I didn't look at what time it was when I started. So if someone could give me like a wave when I'm getting close to the end of my time, please let me know. So Dallas buildings are energy efficient and climate resilient. 2/3 of our greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings and energy. And so this and the next sector about energy are both really important in terms of emissions. So I won't read all of this, but some of the things that we are looking at this year, or in the CECAP rather, is ensuring that we are doing carbon neutral constructions, that we're changing our building codes to be more in line with some of these net zero goals. Because as I mentioned, we are looking at greenhouse gas emissions making up buildings greenhouse gas emissions making up 64% of the city of Dallas total, right? 33% of this comes from commercial buildings, 20% from residential homes, and 8% from the industrial sector. And so by really targeting our approach, we're able to make a significant impact in our emissions in the city of Dallas. So more importantly, what are we doing right now? We have 6 different milestones in this particular sector. And this is a big table with a lot of words on it, but it has, it It'll tell you what we're working on right now. This is also all available on our website, dallasclimateaction.com. So as I go through it relatively quickly, feel free to jump on that website and follow along with me or go back to something you may have missed. So we're looking at benchmarking, energy benchmarking for city facilities this year, looking at ways we can retrofit our facilities and increase energy efficiency. We're also looking at some really cool projects for solar photovoltaic panels, possibility of community solar on some City of Dallas property. We've been working with our airports to maintain airport carbon accreditation. DFW Airport actually has level 4, which goes beyond what we've got in this particular milestone. So you can see that on, just so you know, as I go through these, the action on the left is what's in the CECAP. And then on the right, that column is how we've broken those actions down for this year. Just because we meet all of the milestones for this year doesn't mean that action is done, right? So this is a 30-year phased plan. And as we move forward, it is likely that there will be more things that come up underneath these different actions. So additionally, under the building sector, we're looking at expanding our PACE program. We are working towards increasing the participation and scope of the Dallas Green Business Certification Program. If you happen to know of a business in Dallas that is doing wonderful things, is very green, and they are not in our program, which at this time is relatively small, please let them know that they need to get on our sanitation's website, Zero Waste website, and sign up for an evaluation and see if they might qualify for one of our levels. We have bronze, we have gold, I think it's gold, silver, and platinum levels within the Dallas Green Business Certification Program. We're also working at the regional level with the building code updates. The North Central Texas Council of Governments is going through a regional code update process using the 2021 International Code. And so we have representatives from our buildings department involved in that process. And we anticipate that the Dallas building codes will be updated towards the end of 2022. We are also working towards looking at the possibility of developing resilience hubs. So this is relevant. You know, we saw that after the winter storms, the city couldn't open warming stations because we didn't know if they would have power. You can't invite people to come stay warm at a facility that could lose power. And so one of the things we're looking at this year and next year is the possibility of developing some of those resilience hubs where people can go during and after natural disasters or particularly hot stretches of days during the summer, or unfortunately, those snowpocalypse events that we hope won't be too common, but very well could be. So goal 2, Dallas generates and uses renewable, reliable, and affordable energy. You all have seen this image on the news. I'm sure you people used to not know what ERCOT was, but now we are all experts, right? We are all intimately familiar with ERCOT after February. So again, this has to do with it having a high degree of reliability during extreme weather events. We want to see more renewables across the board and in general. We want to see more renewables generated on site, increasing solar power, increasing the number of solar panels that are in our city, and ensuring that Dallas residents have access to affordable renewable energy as well. Because we know that in Texas, we have 22% of our energy is renewables. And yet we can see that, 48% still comes from natural gas. And it's unfortunate that we have this wonderful potential in Texas, and yet we are still relying so much on fossil fuels. And again, we saw that in 2019, we saw a lot of people lose power. And then in 2021, just a couple of months ago, I think almost 2 months ago to the day, we saw our grid fail, or almost fail, not fail, but we saw a lot of people who it might as well have failed. So what are we doing this year? We want to continue our outreach and education programs with our partners. So we want to increase the number of people that have access to renewable energy. We want to continue to have strategic partnerships to increase affordability and accessibility, and continue to work with partners and to invest in renewable energy. We are still kind of figuring out what all of this looks like, but these are kind of our targets for this year. And we got one more slide. So we want to continue to develop renewable energy on city facilities. I mentioned that there is a potential community solar project in the works. We did receive a technical assistance grant from the US Department of Energy for a community solar project, and they did a wonderful job helping us kind of figure out what those next steps would be. We will be initiating that community solar pilot program. We're continuing to implement the city's green energy policy, which has existed, I want to say, for about 10 years now. We've had a green energy for quite some time. So continuing that and continuing to advocate through various organizations for renewable energy and decarbonization and increased resilience in the power sector. Our third goal is Dallas communities have access to sustainable, affordable transportation options. This is a picture of my bike on the DART train. I love taking DART and I love biking. I'm not a big fan of driving, so this particular sector is near and dear to my heart. Over the next 30 years, we want to increase the amount of available EV charging stations. We want to see electrification of fleets, encouraging biking, walking, public transit in a way that is reliable and safe, because we know that 34% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from transportation, not just the transportation of people, but the transportation of goods as well. 76% of Dallas residents still drive to work alone. This might be a little outdated now as we are all working at home. You know, a lot of us are still working at home, but it's still a problem, right? Because even though we have a very long light rail system, DART has the most linear miles of any light rail system. It's not the most usable. It's not the most user-friendly. People don't live where the DART is. And I totally understand why someone would rather jump in their car for 10 minutes than take a bus to a train to another bus and spend over an hour commuting. So what are we doing this year? We're working on fleet electrification, both for the city of Dallas and DART, and we're working with our Dallas Independent School District as well. We are increasing our EV charging network. The city of Dallas received some grant money from the Volkswagen Mitigation Fund through the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to increase the number of publicly available electric vehicle charging stations. Working on increasing managing travel demand management, working with our transportation department on our strategic mobility plan, and continuing to educate businesses and communities. The city also has an update coming to its comprehensive land use strategy or comp plan called Forward Dallas. And so we are continuing to work with our partners in the planning department to make sure that their goals align with the CECAP goals. We're also looking at parking reform. We're working with sustainable development and our ZOAC and CPC committees to look at how is parking looking in Dallas, and what can we do to better utilize those spaces and encourage multimodal transportation. So a lot of moving parts, pun intended, when it comes to transportation. And last but not least, converting lights to LEDs, right? Just simple thing we can do to decrease our energy requirements. Goal 4 is our zero waste goal, Dallas's zero waste community, looking at going beyond recycling, diverting waste from the landfill, operating a more efficient system, because even though municipal solid waste is a very small percentage of our total greenhouse gas emissions, we know that extreme weather events can cause a lot of problems and hiccups in our solid waste system, right? A lot of us didn't see our trash picked up for a couple of weeks after we had the winter storms because roads were impassable and volume was up. We also know that it's a quality of life issue, right? When you see more trash, it can end up in creeks and streams, it becomes litter and floatables. And so really just getting to a more zero waste lifestyle in the city of Dallas. We're doing this by continuing to promote source reduction, recycling, composting. We're working on a more comprehensive green procurement plan with our procurement department, as well as our convention and event services department. And we are looking at streamlining or modifying our routes for efficiency, because you want to make sure that you're making the best use of the gasoline, diesel that you're burning, right, with your collection vehicles. We will see the local solid waste management plan updated in August. That is in process right now as well. They just briefed our Environment and Sustainability Task Force yesterday, and there will be video of that briefing available to the public within the next week or two. And then looking at it, expanding our gas collection system at the landfill as needed. Right now, we have, many of you may already know, as organic materials break down in the landfill, they release methane. That methane can actually be collected and sold as a renewable natural gas, which is what we are doing right now at the landfill. We are selling that as a renewable natural gas. Goal 5, Dallas protects its water resources and its communities from flooding and drought. So we have the wonderful Dallas Water Utilities. Dallas owns its own water utility, and they do wonderful outreach and education when it comes to water conservation and protection. So we are continuing a lot of their efforts already, because even though water treatment and the water processes in Dallas contribute to less than 1% of our greenhouse gas emissions, water is a public health and quality of life issue. And we know as Dallas grows, so too will our water reserves decline. So we want to make sure that we are using our water in a sustainable way that's going to last us a very, very long time. Additionally, we have some low-income areas that are very susceptible to flooding. And so we're working with the Nature Conservancy to look at how green infrastructure can actually mitigate some of these flooding risks in the city of Dallas. So we have some studies that are coming forward in the near to mid future that will help us identify where we can use green infrastructure to reduce permeable cover and reduce the flood risk. So again, there's a lot of this particular sector of the plan has a lot of stuff happening this year, but it's a lot of continuation of existing awareness and public education campaigns that have to do with water conservation and protection. So we've got, I'll just pick a couple, encouraging drought tolerant and native vegetation to decrease the amount of irrigation that's required. Using our FEMA rating system to help educate communities. Let's see, what else have we got here? So much. Again, that comprehensive storm drainage assessment and utilizing that green infrastructure and updating our drought contingency plan as necessary. So we know when we have to ask people to not water their lawns and how frequently people can irrigate their lawns. And working to make sure our sewer collection system doesn't have a lot of infiltration in it, right? Rehabilitating sewer systems when it's needed. So if you have a storm drain system or a sanitary sewer system, you don't want water leaking into that isn't there from sewers, right? Because now you're treating stormwater as wastewater, and that's a waste of energy and it's a waste of water. So goal 6, Dallas protects and enhances its community, its ecosystems, trees and green spaces that in turn improve public health. This is the Trinity River Audubon Center. I'm sure most of you have been there before. It's a beautiful facility. Suffered some damage from the winter storm, but I believe their trails reopened either last weekend or are reopening this weekend. So we know that people, when they see trees, they are happier overall. We are looking at increasing our tree canopy coverage citywide, reducing our urban heat island effect by increasing that tree canopy coverage, increasing parks and trail access, and using these nature-based solutions as public health strategy. So the city of Dallas has a 6,000 acre forest. The Great Trinity Forest is a wonderful resource. It is concentrated in South Dallas. And even though we have that wonderful forest right there, we know that a lot of our residents do not have direct access to city parks and green spaces. Only 60% of Dallas residents have access to a park within a half-mile walk of their homes. And so we want to expand that. And we're already seeing some wonderful new parks in places like downtown, and we're seeing preservation and restoration of green spaces, not just through the city of Dallas, but through a lot of wonderful nonprofits and community organizations. Again, ecosystem health protects public health. So we're continuing, as I mentioned, the green infrastructure program. The Urban Forest Master Plan is underway. It should be going to council soon for approval. The Urban Forest Master Plan will have a lot of elements of this in it and provide a roadmap to tree canopy coverage and expansion. Continuing to work with community organizations on stewardship, working with our parks organizations on sustainable practices and those nature-based solutions that I mentioned. I'm almost done. I'm getting close to the end. I know I might be going a little bit over on my time. I apologize, but it's also important. So goal 7, all Dallas communities have access to healthy local food. Again, we're looking at improving food access in food deserts. We know that food has to travel a long way to get to your plate. When you buy strawberries from California, you buy avocados from Mexico, that food has traveled a long way to get there. That is a lot of greenhouse gas emissions and very susceptible to supply chain interruption when we have extreme weather events. So encouraging local food production is really important for food security. We know that 36% of our residents live in food deserts. They do not have close access to healthy foods. And so we want part of our year 1 implementation is developing an urban agriculture and food security plan. So we anticipate getting a request for proposals or RFP out for that plan. I know a lot of plans, a lot of planning has to go into this, but we want to be strategic about how we approach it. But that request for proposals should be going out next week, and we hope to kick off the development of that urban agriculture plan by the end of this fiscal year. So that will include a lot of the things that are in this particular goal in the CECAP. And we want to practice what we preach, right? So part of this is the city itself having a local preference policy, supporting local growers and local restaurants and things like that in order to emphasize healthy local food at city events. And then decreasing the amount of food waste. So having a draft ordinance that allows for multiple waste management options. So looking at composting and donating surplus food to organizations. And last but not least, all Dallas communities breathe clean air. So this particular section about air quality encompasses parts of every other section in the CECAP. Improving and decreasing greenhouse gas emissions will contribute to improved air quality in the city of Dallas. And so looking at some cross-cutting approaches to reduce or to improve air quality. Unfortunately, right now, the DFW Metroplex is in non-attainment for ozone, which means we are not meeting the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for ozone. And we've not been in attainment for quite some time. So we're about to move into severe non-attainment. So a lot of this is a regional issue, but we are working to lead the way on moving from non-attainment into attainment, so decreasing our ground level ozone. And a lot of this comes from the efforts that I mentioned in the transportation sector and the buildings and energy sector, reducing those greenhouse gas emissions to improve air quality. And I know Kevin Overton is probably on the line saying like, Katie, don't say all that, or you're getting it wrong, which is entirely possible. So I will allow him to chime in if he wants to. Kevin, is there anything you wanted to say about ozone? I'm putting you on the spot.
I can say plenty about ozone, but you're entirely correct.
Okay.
Basically, everything that we do to improve climate also has makes improvements in air quality. So I'll just shut up and you can keep going on. But you
Okay.
have it absolutely right.
Thank you. I get nervous when there's an expert on the line to fact check me. So thank you, Kevin. So the other thing about air quality is it's a comorbidity. It can increase the cases of asthma. We know that poor air quality also can cause increased impact from COVID. People who had poor air quality suffered more severe cases of COVID. Again, this is a correlation right now. There aren't a whole lot of scientific studies about COVID, but we know that poor air quality exacerbates other conditions as well. So we are currently working with TCEQ on a new monitoring station, which has been installed, working with the Nature Conservancy and Texas Trees Foundation on our Breathe Easy Dallas program, which has to do with installing neighborhood level monitors to look at public health correlations when it comes to pediatric asthma and school absenteeism, continuing our Air North Texas campaign, and again, working with our partners in planning, the planning department, to make sure we have a good understanding of where industrial facilities are located in relation to neighborhoods. So the outcome of this, we're reducing emissions, addressing risks, and improving quality of life overall. And where are we now? That's what we all want to know, right? As of Q1, and we have the Q2 figures, but I'm doing some quality checking and making sure everything is right before we make it public next week. But Q1, 15% of our milestones are complete. We checked those boxes, they are done. 56% in progress and 29% have not been started. There are more in progress now. There are fewer not started now, but this is what's published on our website at the moment, which you can visit, dallasclimateaction.com, and you can see our wonderful dashboard put together by Brittany Wells, who I believe is a member of Climate Reality. She has done a wonderful job building our public-facing dashboard. And I know I'm about out of time, so I'm just gonna say, we're going to get at least 92% of these milestones done according to the city manager's office. That's part of our transparency and accountability. We project that we'll have 95% done of what we set out to do. So 95% of 136 milestones will be done by the end of this fiscal year, setting us on a wonderful track to continue to do good climate work and implement our CECAP. We're doing this with a internal group called LEAF, Leading Environmental Action Forward. This is members from other city departments. And we are continuing our ongoing input and engagement. I had a whole spiel about these guys, but the Environment and Sustainability Committee is our council representatives who are working to advise on environment and sustainability issues. They meet the first Monday of the month. It's a public meeting. You are welcome to view and attend. And they advise us on CECAP implementation and some of the other environmental things that you've seen come up. We also have our Environment and Sustainability Task Force. That's Ms. Rita Beving, who was mentioned at the beginning of your meeting, and Tracy Wallace, who's speaking next, if I give her any time, will also be, is also on that committee, and they're helping us develop our permanent environmental commission, which will go to the city council on April 28th. And we have our regional organization through the North Central Texas Council of Governments called RISE. We work with other cities to advance these sustainability and environmental initiatives. And with that, I will take questions. I'm so sorry if I went over on my time.
You really did quite well, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes over. So thank you. It was challenging, and people can go to dallasclimateaction.com to get the details they may have missed. Is that right, Katy?
Yes, absolutely. I can also, I'll convert this presentation to a PowerPoint and I'll send it to you, Richard, if you want to share it with the group.
Thank you very much.
Go back and revisit.
We do have a number of questions already in the Q&A, so let's hit those first. And if you, we have maybe 10 minutes for questions. If you have another question, either put it in the Q&A or raise your hand. We'll try and get to as many as possible, but we may not be able to get to all of them. So the first one was from Roger. I would like to hear more about the potential solar farm. This has been mentioned a lot, but details always seem skimpy.
Yes, so that's a great question. The details are skimpy because they are skimpy right now. So we are working through some internal feasibility studies on where we could site a solar farm. So the idea behind this is we were tasked with creating community solar to address energy poverty in the city of Dallas. And so we have found a site that we think will work, but we are doing some internal legwork to determine if it's appropriate to put, because there's so much, right? We're in a deregulated market. It has to tie into a distribution line. You have to have an off taker. The city isn't a retail electricity provider. It's very complicated. And so we are still working through a lot of those details, but we are hoping to put some community solar on a former landfill site in South Dallas. So we're working through that. When there are details, they will absolutely be more available. But unfortunately, we're still kind of figuring it out on our end before we share that more publicly.
Thank you, Katy.
So Katy, you talk so fast, I can't quite imagine how your throat survives. Can you, and I understand that this is much more complicated than those of us who just want to say, oh, put up some solar panels. It's not that easy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were going to take your best guess about when this might actually happen in Dallas, Texas, before 2030?
Yes, before 2030. So my hope is that we can get, if indeed the site that we are looking at is feasible for panels, and I'll try not to talk so fast, I'm sorry, if it is feasible for panels, we hope that we can get something out there within the next couple of years. That's our hope. Yeah, we're not looking long term, and Pharr is on the line. I'm hoping she's not like kicking me under the table saying don't overpromise, but our hope is that we can get a project on the ground within the next couple of years.
Good. Thank you, Katy.
Sure.
Next question comes from Chip Pitts. What is Dallas doing at ground level to make easy renewable energy plants more available and accessible as a practical matter?
Sure. So if you've ever had to sign up for an energy plan in Texas, you know how complicated it can be to choose a retail electricity provider or an REP. There are, I think, almost 200, at least in DFW. And so part of our efforts this year is to make that process a little bit more tenable, to make it more accessible for people to understand this is renewable, this is not. A lot of that is going to come from our outreach and engagement efforts. And I know Pharr Andrews, our senior climate coordinator, is doing some work with SMU on, and Pharr, if you want to speak a little bit about that, it's more about weatherization and improving efficiency, but the two go hand in hand, right? So we want to make sure that as we are asking people to sign up for these sometimes more expensive renewable energy plans, that their homes are also energy efficient, right? Because you want people to get the best bang for their buck, so to speak. Pharr, did you want to say anything else about the SMU project you're working on?
Sure. So I'm actually partnering with SMU and to advance some of our current CECAP actions related to weatherization. Our actual goals center around addressing or reducing energy burdens for homeowners in the Dallas area. So we're going to be looking at how we can fill the gap between, there's money out there for weatherization and to help low and moderate income families reduce their energy bills. But a lot of it stays on the table. We need to figure out where's the disconnect and how to ensure that this money is appropriately used and we get the benefits to people who so desperately need it now.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Good, thank you both. A lot of comments in the Q&A. I'm trying to separate the questions from the comments, but there is a good question from Karen Dyer. There is a proposed luxury apartment complex at the intersection of Garland and Gaston. When asked about their plans for EV charging stations and energy plans, they had no knowledge of the city's climate plan. When will proposed developers be required to incorporate their plans with the city's climate plan?
So that's a good question and a complicated one, like everything is, right? So I mentioned that the city has representatives working at the regional level with the North Central Texas Council of Governments to, as they update their regional code recommendations and code amendments. And so we can't require developers to do anything that's not in the code. we can ask them to, but unfortunately we can't require them to do anything that's not in the code. And so part of our long-term process with CECAP is updating the city's code to be in line with our goals in the CECAP. As I mentioned, the city's process for the 2021 codes, these codes come out every 3 years. The 2021 codes we expect to be adopted with city amendments towards the end of 2022, which sounds like a long way away, but the city does have ample opportunity for public input during that process. So as it goes through the review process with various council committees and resident advisory boards, there will be opportunity for public comment. Additionally, the Environmental Commission that we expect to be formalized, maybe not stood up in that it's got all of its members, but will be voted on by City Council on April 28th, is likely to include a subcommittee of people doing this, exactly this, the building code recommendations subcommittee of that group. So I see a kiddo on the line, hello. And so it's a lot and it's a complicated process, as most legal things are, but hopefully, you know, we can see some of these developers making changes without the codes. But again, all we can do is ask them to. In the meantime, we are trying to get the word out through our outreach and education about CECAP. We're doing some engagement with the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas about our the Volkswagen electric vehicle infrastructure grant, or the Volkswagen mitigation grant for electric vehicle infrastructure. So many long words. And so we are working with the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas to get the word out about that, to encourage more multifamily developments to install this infrastructure and to take advantage of that funding that's available. So there's a few things kind of going on when it comes to getting the word out and increasing the amount of electric vehicle infrastructure in the city.
Wonderful. I think we're about out of time, but there's one more comment in the Q&A, the chat, that I wanted to share. Katy's presentation makes me so hopeful. So thank you, Katy. Thank you, Pharr. Thank you, Kevin, for working on CECAP and doing what you do. We appreciate it. You're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you wish. We really do appreciate your time and the information, and we'll look at dallasclimateaction.com to get some of the further details. I think we challenged you quite a bit trying to get through this in 30 minutes, but you met the challenge and we appreciate it. So
thank you. Thank you so much for having us. And yes, absolutely. Check out our website in the next couple of weeks to see our Q2 progress. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you again.
Now you see why I wanted Katy to do this and not me. She's much better at it than I am.
She's good. She's good, definitely. I'm going to introduce Tracy Wallace, who's our next speaker. And she's a justice warrior, environmental, social, economic, who believes access and equity are the cures to poverty. She is founder and executive director of Green Careers Dallas. With tenacity and passion, Tracy works to connect hard-to-employ, low-income neighbors with living wage employment as entry-level solar PV installers in the rapidly growing solar industry. Tracy is a fifth-generation Texan who received her degree in industrial distribution from Texas A&M University. She also serves on the nonprofit boards of Congo Restoration, Emmanuel Community Center, and Miles of Freedom. Tracy, welcome. It's good to have you. And do you need to share your screen?
I do, please.
Okay. I think Leah's done that for you. So thank you for being here, Tracy.
Thank you. And it is so great to be with a bunch of kindred spirits this afternoon. And I could not have hoped to go behind a better presentation. So this is super exciting for me. This lot that you're seeing is in 75216, and 3 nonprofits are working to, oh, sorry, let me get to, up. So sorry. Go back to my presentation. Let's see what I did wrong here. Okay. 3 nonprofits are working on this corner to build resilience and joy, bottom line. We do solar installation training as pathway to living wage work. As you mentioned, Oak Cliff Veggie Project has installed Edgemont Community Garden here. We're their 4th of 7 gardens, and More Than a Roof works with returning citizens and local neighbors. This zip code has the dubious honor of having the highest rate of incarceration. It's a very under-resourced neighborhood. It's in a food desert, employment desert, meaning that living wage employment is a long way away, not nearby like it is for some of the rest of us. There's an elevated dropout rate. And so we're super excited to be here. As you can see, this is a bird's eye view of our property. This is the church on the first lot. Here's a little house on the second lot. And this lot is the lot where we have placed our 40-foot storage container, and we'll have our solar work yard here. And I'm super excited that this slide hadn't been updated since Friday afternoon, but we now have a fiscal sponsor, and we'll be asking the Green Mountain Energy Sun Club for these 4 standalone solar-powered rainwater harvesting systems with drip irrigation for the in-ground and the in-ground gardens and the raised beds. We'll also be asking Sun Club for a 20-foot hydroponic container to grow food, which will sit right here behind the little house, right behind that tree. That will be solar powered. The little house will eventually have solar power when its foundation has been repaired. We were so grateful to Excel Geothermal, who came in here, cleaned out this broken fence and tree line. It was a day's work they donated. We got donated solar panels from a homeowner whose panels received microfractures during the tornado, but otherwise they're physically in great shape, and we just need them to practice with. We're grateful to Rise Power, who has donated a teaching module, which is interesting to see, and to Quantum Solar, who's donating the shingles for our mock rooftop. We would be lost without LaMarcus Howard. Regional Black Contractors connected us with him about a month ago, and he has really moved us along. We had a pro bono architect drop the plans, but finding a builder who would take this on was a challenge. So we're super grateful to him and to Greg Bender, who is a custom home builder, and our board member who is with Climate Reality also. Michael Martin connected us with Greg Bender. So it's great to have some expertise on hand. Here are some photos with Oak Cliff Veggie Project. The in-ground beds were installed on March 7th, and Restorative Farms donated 10 of the 48 by 36 raised beds. They look similar to the raised beds you see on the right, although that's double height. We have single height right now, and we'll be adding to that. If you ever want to come out and participate in a garden work day, which always includes fresh produce distribution, our garden is slated on the first Sunday of every month from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a lot of fun. And thank you. We were blown away that Climate Reality Project raised $1,050 in a single day. And that's after I got to pitch to your executive committee. So we're super grateful. That was fully 1/5 of what we needed for our fences. And fence ain't sexy, but it is necessary. And we are super grateful to y'all. Thank you so much. Sierra Club, and you'll see from our, we have a rendering, again, bird's eye view rendering, and I'll show you where these will go. They've donated $250 for one of these 2x4 horse troughs that I've purchased the pollinators. I just got to get it out there. And this is where these little ovals that you see, those will all be horse troughs full of some sort of native plants, pollinators, both host and nectar, and food. And that helps create, when you get out on the lot, it's just a bunch of asphalt. And that's why we did raised beds here. That's what number 10 is the raised beds. 11 and 11 are the in-ground gardens that are there. And this drive that we're creating, I mean, it's not a nice, clean drive like that. This is a nice parking lot over here, but we have an entrance gate off of Stella here where people drive through for the fresh produce distribution and then exit here on Denley Drive. We're also coordinating with City Code Department to offer some trash off opportunities in this neighborhood as well. And that's why we needed to delineate and really define a drive area. And then it helps create this little seating area here under the shade of this big cedar tree. And here is where our solar work yard is. This is the security fence. We needed to complete, the church was just so generous in giving us our lease for $1 a year. We're leasing this space for our work yard. And our deal with them was that we would complete the perimeter. And then when Oak Cliff Veggie Project partnered with us, little ones will come out with parents to the work days. So we wanted a security fence so that kids don't get hurt climbing up. My kids would have been the first ones on the mock rooftop to climb up and jump off of there. And the landscape designer, Emily Drake, did not know that our rooftops had to be a certain size. So we only have enough money to build one, but it'll go right here, a 20 by 20 rooftop. Here's our 40-foot container that's already there. And then she's created this beautiful outdoor classroom space for us. We received $5,000 from United Way and $5,000 from Communities Foundation of Texas to purchase the 40-foot container you see in the background back here, and to build a very similar rooftop to the one you see on the right. Ours will be composite, not metal roofing like this one, but very similar size and pitch. And this is just a photo on the bottom of one of our past trainings that was held at an indoor solar lab out at Eastfield that's no longer in use. So our remaining needs are to complete the perimeter. We have complete perimeter and security fencing. We have $1,700 to go. We need to purchase these tools. You know, that's part of why the container is there, to keep all these things safe. And then the safety equipment. We want our folks to know how to use the safety equipment when they go onto the job, and how to manage the rope grab, things like that. So that's why we're purchasing the safety equipment that they will use when they get on a solar site. And I just thank you for this time, and just ask if we don't have like big volunteer days like Oak Cliff Veggie Project where people come out and do one thing. Our construction got rained out this weekend and we'll do next weekend. But in that case, we're hiring laborers through Socialize, which some of you may have heard of. It's a project to help people who are struggling with housing or have criminal backgrounds that need work in order to secure housing. I mean, it's a circular, cycle. So we don't really need volunteers to help with construction that day, But during our first training, we need volunteers to help schlep the food from wherever we're buying it to the site. And we need a treasurer, we need people to sit on our marketing and finance and employer relations committees, because without jobs, what's the point of training? So, and then always happy to take your money for all of these things. I love meeting for outdoor coffee and happy to pick up a check from anybody. And then I'm sure Roger has ways that we need, that you need to make donations, because that came as a singular thing through DFW Climate Reality. So with that, are there any questions?
We do have a couple of comments in the chat. Roger, I think you'd like to make a comment?
I would. Tracy, thanks so much. I just wanted to let everybody on the call know that I had a chance to hear Tracy talk about this project earlier this year at a meeting of NT-REG. Things hadn't progressed quite as much, but it was clear to me that this was something that would be of great interest to people in this chapter. It ticks all the boxes for the things that we say we want to work on and support in this community. So I immediately invited her over to speak to our executive committee, and we talked about launching a fundraiser. The price for the fence has increased a little since we talked to Tracy. So she gave us a number and we said, we're going to try to raise half of it, and we'll challenge NT-REG to raise the other half. And as Richard said, to my amazement, and I just have to thank everybody in the chapter the few of you who got an initial request from me, we raised the money in a single day and got the check to Tracy quickly. I did talk to Rosa Ornstein over at NT-REG and let them know that in a friendly way we were challenging them. I don't know if they've made a decision about joining it, but I do hope that people in the chapter will take advantage of the opportunity to get down maybe on the gardening days and put in some volunteer time. Tracy's mentioned some other ways that she needs help and ways you could get involved in this project. I think this is a very, very exciting thing to see happening in Dallas. And so Tracy, I'm glad we could make a small contribution. I'm delighted to see your list of donors and partners is growing. And we very much want to stay in touch and stay involved.
Thank you. And one thing I love I've already emailed Pharr. One thing I love is that we are working with some of the returning citizens to create a team to do energy efficiency upgrades. And a member of the NT-REG, and he's, sat on the EAS task force and stakeholder group, Paul Westbrook, has helped us create a checklist for energy efficiency. We're going to do a video that is a walkthrough of an older home in South Dallas to show where the common areas are that people lose their energy to that they've generated for heat and cooling on the inside, escapes outside. We're going to do small things like, which could be a big thing to a low-income homeowner who really falls into that category of energy poverty. We'll have a day where we teach people how to caulk. I mean, different types of very basic but very grassroots, right in the neighborhood training. And for people who that aren't capable of doing a DIY kind of thing, then this team will help do the upgrades. And so anyhow, it was really exciting to me to follow the CECAP review because of that very thing, where everything we're doing here, removing the lawn, eventually going with xeriscaping and food, and pollinators, it all falls into the goals in a very small way. But prior to this, it's just an empty lot.
Tracy, we have time for one more question if you're up for it. Kevin says he's impressed. Can this model be used in other communities?
Well, I don't see why not. I don't see why, if you can find the crazy people who will back it up and be involved, that's really what it takes is, I feel like we're all probably crazy people on this call. We have a lot of passion and, anyway, so yeah, I think it could absolutely be done.
Last comment, somebody wrote in the chat, Tracy, your work is very inspiring. Thank you again for joining us today, and we enjoyed your presentation and enjoyed being a part of Green Couriers.
Thank you.
Jayashri, I think you're up with the treasurer's report.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. It was really inspiring, and I'll find time to see if I can come and help in any way. Richard, I'd like to share my screen if possible.
Leah, you can do that. Go to the green share screen button and
Okay.
you should be able to do that.
Got it. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to make it. So I'll go fast because we really have time. I wanted to make this presentation because of our chapter members and how kind and happy they are to donate when something comes up. And so last year, you can see from the date we started collecting from 7-Eleven, and by end of the year, we had collected 1360, and I'll tell you what we expended on. This year, look at the date, on 3838383839, we raised what Roger was saying, more than what we needed, $1,050. So we raised more than that. And then the last part was raised for the mural. So total this year so far, we have raised $1,700. These are the expenses for both the years. I put shortly here. Can you all see? I'm trying to get rid of my. So you can see last year we did two major expenses, Zoom Pro, we subscribed, and then Wix, the wonderful website that you see, we had to pay for the annual. So that is a renewable one. This year, I'm sorry, Tracy, I apologize. Instead of writing Green Couriers Dallas, I said Dallas Green Couriers. We send them a check for $10.50, and then we have sent, remember Karen, very great Karen Magrugo, who was in charge of our membership, she has left. So as a token of appreciation, we presented as a chapter a book which Leah bought. What's the name of the book, Leah? Can you put it in the chat? That was a pretty little dollar. And the great mural that we are going to see tomorrow, I'm still waiting for them to send me the expenses that incurred through the form so that we can pay them. So we have about $1,555 in our coffers. So think of things that you want to spend on. And remember, I'm the treasurer, so I need to know, and you, whatever money you need to send me a form, a Google form, I'll send you so that I can get that money to you. So make sure you do that. This year we need these expenses, so we have to keep this about 500, say 600 to pay for these recurring expenses and whatever we might need after that. Now, before I sign off, I want to remind those who are in the book club, we have our next book club meeting coming up on 5th of May, 7:30 to 8:30. The book we are reading is The New Climate War by Michael Mann. Thank you, Richard.
Jayashri, we do have a question from Chip. Do these figures include amounts donated to the national organization, but designated for our chapter?
No, these are just our chapter donations.
Okay, thank you. Good. Appreciate the report, Jayashri. Well, we are just about finished today. Thank you all for hanging on. We've had a wonderfully full agenda today. To close us out, Leah's going to close us out with self-care. Of course, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of the planet. So Leah's going to talk to us for a few minutes to close us out. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, everybody. So today I prepare a very short, like 5 to 7 minute meditation. If you guys don't know, I'm a yoga teacher, and I started practice meditation since I was very young, and I find it extremely nurturing and rewarding, especially in our activism work. So if you want to turn off your camera, I wouldn't mind at all. You can keep it on and find a comfortable seat. If you want to lie down somewhere around your room, you can do that as well. Okay, so find your position and then make sure you're in a comfortable position, either on your seat or on your back. And from here, you can softly close your eyes. And I invite you, taking this moment, really turn inward into your own body. And maybe you start to notice what's going on in the room. Maybe you start to notice if there's any sounds, anything that you never really notice. Maybe it's the lighting of your room. Maybe you feel how the air feels at this particular moment, in this particular space. Really inviting yourself to be curious, be interested of what's going on. And start to take that awareness back to your own breath. Noticing your nostrils. How does it feel in your nostrils when you inhale and exhale? How does it feel in the back of your throat when you inhale and exhale? And how does it feel in your chest, in your lungs, in your heart, with your own breath? Be curious again, be an observer of your own breath without any judgment, without any critiques, just noticing. And lastly, I want to invite you to bring that awareness to the space you're creating with your own breath. See if you can visualize the space you're creating in your lungs, between your rib cage, in your rib cage. And see really if you can visualize the space you're creating in your own heart. Can we find space and pause between each heartbeat and between each breath? Spending time sitting here, exploring the depth of our feeling, of your awareness, of your own being, and the depth of our community, and how our own being is a part of that community. Saying with your own breath. And keeping your eyes closed before I bring you out of your meditation, I would like to share a few reminders I come back to for guidance almost every day. They're from the Bhagavad Gita, a scripture of meditation, spirituality, and yoga. It says, on this path, effort never goes to waste, and there's no failure. Even a little effort towards spiritual awareness will protect you from the greatest fear. Fulfill all your duties. Action is better than inaction. Even to maintain your body and your spirit, you are obliged to act. Selfish action imprisons the world. Act selflessly without any thought of personal profit. And this reminder always reminds me of what my dad taught me growing up. So he always taught me from Dao De Jing, written by Lao Tzu. In there, he wrote, do your own work, then step back. Do your own work and step back. The only path to serenity. We don't always have to feel good and motivated to do the work, to do activism. Sometimes the most meaningful work we can do is done when we don't feel like doing, because we show up anyways. Nevertheless, we show up. Keeping your eyes closed, take a deep inhale in through your nose. And deep exhale out. Let's do that 2 more times. Deep inhale. Deep exhale out. 1 more. Feel free to keep your eyes closed if you like, or you can blink them softly open. And if you like, you can take your hands together in front of our heart. Take a deep inhale, last together collectively. And exhale, bowing toward our heart. With gratitude and compassion toward ourselves, gratitude and compassion toward Mother Earth, toward our community, and towards all beings everywhere supporting us and challenging us. From my heart to each of yours, namaste.
Thank you, Leah.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
And on that note, guys, we have yoga next Saturday at 11 a.m. I'm gonna drop the link to register in the chat. We're gonna drop the link there, okay? So please sign up. We really wanna see you. We do this for you guys and for myself as well, but okay. 11 a.m. and every 4th Saturday of the month.
Good. Good. We are adjourned unless anybody has a last word, which is a dangerous thing to ask, but I believe we are adjourned. We've got plenty going on. Look at the website. You'll be receiving emails and lots going on this month. Thank you for attending today. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody.